In March of 1954, John Wayne is not the untouchable legend people remember. He's famous, yes, recognizable everywhere. But fame doesn't pay overdue bills, and Wayne has plenty of those. Just weeks earlier, he quietly lost more than $400,000 on early production costs for The Alamo, a passion project that was spiraling out of control before the cameras even rolled. Republic Pictures was already whispering about legal action. His bank accounts were stretched thin. His reputation as a safe investment was starting to wobble. And then there was his family. 3 marriages behind him, 7 children depending on him. Alimony checks that didn't care how many box office headlines he'd once made. This new film, Blood Alley, wasn't just another role. It was survival. A $2 million contract, ironclad, with a brutal clause buried in legal language that everyone in Hollywood understood. Failure to appear on the first day of shooting constitutes breach of contract. No delays, no excuses, no mercy. Shooting was scheduled to begin at 6 a.m. in San Francisco. Wayne's call time was non-negotiable. This role would stabilize everything, restore studio trust, erase the Alamo losses, and reassert his place at the top of the industry. Miss it, and Republic Pictures would sue him into the ground. Other studios would take note. Careers had ended for less. That's what Wayne stood to lose. Now, the man who had just written to him stood to lose something else entirely. James Russell was 34 years old, a Korean War sergeant, a single father, a man whose body never truly came home from the battlefield. At Pork Chop Hill, Russell had dragged 12 wounded soldiers to safety under enemy fire. He'd taken shrapnel doing it, metal that doctors removed but never fully neutralized. Years later, the infection spread. Sepsis set in. His organs began to fail. Doctors gave him 48 hours. The Veterans Administration denied his disability claim. A paperwork error, a missing signature, a hero reduced to a file that never made it to the right desk. His son, Michael, was 11 years old and obsessed with one movie, Sands of Iwo Jima. Michael watched it over and over, memorizing lines, believing the men on screen represented what his father had been, strong, brave, remembered. James Russell knew he was dying, and he knew something else. When he was gone, there would be no headlines, no medals presented on television, no proof to his son that what he did had mattered. So he did the unthinkable. From a VA hospital bed in Tucson, Arizona, Russell spent $4.87, nearly his last money, to send a telegram to a man he had never met, John Wayne. Not for money, not for favors, just presence. The math was impossible. San Francisco was a 6-hour drive north. Tucson was more than 1,000 miles southeast. There were no direct flights that could get Wayne there and back before call time. If Wayne went to Tucson, he broke his contract. If he stayed in California, a soldier died believing nobody heard him. This wasn't a Hollywood problem. There was no agent who could fix it, no publicist who could spin it, only a man, a clock, and a decision that couldn't be undone. And as the minutes ticked toward dawn, John Wayne understood something with terrifying clarity. By morning, one version of his life would be over. At 4:12 a.m., John Wayne stops pacing. The telegram sits on the nightstand like a verdict. He does what he's done his entire career when problems feel too big. He reaches for the phone. Hollywood has solved worse things than this. First call, the studio. Republic Pictures' production office answers on the 3rd ring. Groggy, irritated. This is Wayne. A pause, then alertness. Duke, you know what time it is? I need 48 hours, Wayne says. No explanation yet. Family emergency. Silence stretches on the line, then the voice hardens. You signed a contract. 90 crew members report at 6. Sets are built. Cameras are rented. If you don't show, we breach. Wayne exhales slowly. What if I cover the delay, pay out of pocket? A short, humorless laugh. You don't have that kind of money, not anymore. And you still owe us for the Alamo. Wayne grips the phone tighter. This matters. So does reliability, the executive snaps. Miss call time and we sue. You'll never work for Republic again. The line goes dead. Wayne stares at the receiver for a long moment before placing it back in its cradle. Second call, his business manager. This one answers immediately. "I already heard," the man says. "Republic called me 5 minutes ago." Wayne doesn't bother with preamble. "Tell me straight, how bad is it if I don't show?" A pause. Papers rustle. "You lose the $2 million, the manager says. "They'll blacklist you. Other studios will think you're a risk. This could end your career, Duke." Wayne closes his eyes. 7 kids, alimony, debt, a fragile reputation hanging by a thread. "This role fixes everything," the manager continues. "Miss it and there is no safety net." Wayne says nothing, then, quietly, "What if I go anyway?" Another pause, longer this time. "Then you're choosing a man over a machine," the manager says, "and machines always win in this town." Wayne thanks him and hangs up. It's 4:38 a.m. The sky outside the window is still black, but dawn is coming. He has 90 minutes before he's supposed to be heading north. He sits on the edge of the bed and finally allows himself to think about the soldier. A man who once ran toward gunfire. A man now dying in a government hospital, ignored. A man who spent his last dollars on a telegram because he believed John Wayne stood for something real. Wayne pictures the boy, 11 years old, watching war movies, believing heroes get remembered. He looks back at the phone. There's one more number to call. The airline. "Yes," Wayne says when the operator answers. "I need the fastest route to Tucson. Now." She lists options. None are easy, none are cheap. He takes the earliest one, first class, no return booked. "Mr. Wayne," she says carefully, "that flight departs in 45 minutes. I'll be there." He hangs up. For a moment, he just sits there. This is the point of no return. If he walks out that door, there is no apology big enough, no explanation that saves him. By the time the sun rises over San Francisco, Republic Pictures will know he isn't coming. He stands and starts packing. A single suitcase, no entourage, no publicity. At 4:52 a.m., his wife stirs. "Where are you going?" she asks, half asleep. Wayne pauses at the doorway. "I've got to keep my word," he says. She doesn't understand. She won't, not yet. But she nods anyway. At 5:03 a.m., John Wayne leaves his house. By the time the studio lot fills with crew and cameras at 6 o'clock, the star they're waiting for will already be airborne, flying away from the biggest role of his life, and toward a promise made by a dying man at 3:47 in the morning. John Wayne arrives in Tucson just after 2 p.m. No cameras, no reporters, no one waiting for him. The VA hospital looks exactly like what it is, a place people are sent when the world has finished with them. The lobby smells of antiseptic and old coffee. The floors are scuffed. The walls are a dull government green. Wayne's boots echo as he walks to the front desk. The nurse on duty looks up and freezes. Her name is Barbara Chen. She's 26 years old, newly graduated and working her 3rd double shift of the week. She knows who he is immediately. "Mr. Wayne," she says, lowering her voice. "Visiting hours end at 4. "I'm here to see Sergeant James Russell," Wayne replies. Something changes in her expression. She hesitates, then quietly says, He's not doing well, sir. Only family is usually allowed." Wayne reaches into his jacket and places the folded telegram on the counter. "He asked me to come," he says, "to see his son." Barbara reads the message once, then again. Her eyes fill. "Room 312, she says. "I'll take you." They walk down the hall together. Barbara later remembers how little he spoke. No swagger, no movie star presence. Just a man moving with purpose, carrying something heavy he didn't set down. Inside room 312, the light is dim. James Russell lies in the hospital bed, thinner than his photograph, skin gray, oxygen mask fogging with each shallow breath. Tubes run from his arms. Machines tick and hum, counting down what little time remains. In a chair beside the bed sits a boy, Michael Russell. He's holding his father's hand with both of his. When the door opens, Michael looks up. and freezes. His mouth opens slightly, his eyes widen. He recognizes John Wayne instantly. Wayne stops in the doorway and lowers himself to one knee so he's eye level with the boy. "Your dad asked me to come," Wayne says gently. "Is that okay with you?" Michael nods, unable to speak. Wayne steps inside. He moves to the bedside and leans close. "Sergeant Russell," he says softly. "I'm here." James Russell's eyes flutter open. He doesn't have the strength to speak, but his hand tightens around his son's. Wayne understands. He pulls a chair close and sits beside Michael. For the next 6 hours, John Wayne does nothing heroic by Hollywood standards. He doesn't give speeches. He doesn't talk about contracts or sacrifice. He talks to a boy. He tells Michael about making war movies, how none of them get it exactly right, about horses that refuse to behave, about stunts that went wrong. He tells him about his own father, who died when Wayne was young. "He never got to see what I became," Wayne says quietly. "But I carry him with me." Michael listens. Sometimes he smiles. Sometimes he just holds his father's hand tighter. James Russell drifts in and out of consciousness. Every time he wakes, he sees the same thing. His son is not alone. At 8:47 p.m., the machines change their rhythm. Barbara is standing in the doorway when James Russell exhales one last time. Michael doesn't cry at first. He just stares. Wayne places a hand on the boy's shoulder and stays there. Barbara later says that was the moment she understood what she had witnessed. Not a celebrity visit, a vigil. John Wayne stays until everything that needs to be done is done. Paperwork, quiet instructions, a promise to Michael that he won't forget this day. He leaves the hospital long after dark. By then, the movie he was supposed to star in has already moved on without him. He never tells the press where he went. He never explains why he missed the role. He never corrects the rumors. Hollywood assumes what it always assumes, that he chose wrong. 40 years later, Barbara Chen will tell a reporter what she saw that day. "People think they know who John Wayne was," she'll say. "But I saw him choose a dying man and an 11-year-old boy over millions of dollars. He didn't perform, he didn't pose, he just stayed." "I was there," she says. "That's the man he really was." The story doesn't resurface for more than 4 decades. No interviews, no memoir chapters, no studio retrospectives. It sleeps quietly inside a cardboard box in an attic. In 1995, Michael Russell is 52 years old when he finds it. His mother has just passed away. He's sorting through her things when he opens a box labeled in fading ink, "Dad's Things." Inside are the pieces of a life that ended too early. A folded American flag, discharge papers, letters written from Korea, and a small velvet case holding a silver star. Michael knew his father was brave. He didn't know the details. At the bottom of the box, beneath old photos, he finds something else, a yellowed receipt. Western Union. Dated March 17, 1954. Amount charged, $4.87. Sender, James Russell. Recipient, John Wayne, Beverly Hills, California. Michael sits down on the attic floor. For 41 years, he believed John Wayne had simply appeared at the hospital by coincidence. A lucky miracle. A generous gesture from a movie star passing through. He never knew his father asked. He never knew his father chose to spend his last money on a telegram instead of medicine, comfort, or dignity. Michael calls Western Union. The records clerk is surprised, but the archives go back far enough. Weeks later, a photocopy arrives in the mail. The original message, all caps, all final. "Will you visit him so he knows his father mattered?" Michael breaks down. Not because of the words, but because of the answer. For the first time, he understands that what happened that day wasn't luck. It was a choice. Michael writes a letter to the John Wayne estate. He doesn't ask for anything. He just says, "Thank you." Weeks later, a response arrives. It's from Wayne's daughter, Isa. She writes that her father never spoke about the visit. Not once. But after receiving Michael's letter, she searched through his old belongings. What she found stopped her cold. John Wayne's 1954 day planner. Most days are filled with notes, meetings, studio lunches, travel. March 17th has only 2 words written in pencil. Tucson, James R. March 18th reads, Cancel Blood Alley. The following pages are blank. No work, no reshoots, no new contracts. Wayne lost 3 weeks of employment. The studio replaced him and quietly blacklisted him for 18 months. Roles dried up. Calls stopped coming. The financial loss, adjusted for today, would have been close to $3 million. And he never once publicly explained why. The final artifact surfaces years later. In 2003, after Barbara Chen dies, her daughter finds an envelope tucked inside a nursing textbook. Inside is a photograph, grainy, black and white. John Wayne kneeling beside an 11-year-old boy in a hospital room. On the back, written in careful handwriting, The day a movie star showed me what honor looks like, March 17, 1954. The photo is returned to Michael. Today, it sits on his desk, beside his father's medal, beside the telegram receipt. Proof that one man's quiet decision changed the meaning of another man's life. John Wayne never got credit for what he did that day, and that may be the point, because real honor doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need witnesses. It just answers the phone at 3:47 in the morning and goes. Today, Michael Russell is an old man. On his desk, he keeps 3 things. His father's silver star, a faded Western Union receipt, and a photograph taken in a hospital room in 1954. In the photo, a movie star is kneeling beside an 11-year-old boy, not posing, not performing, just staying. For most of his life, Michael believed that moment was luck, that a famous man had wandered into the right place at the right time. Now he knows better. He knows his father asked. He knows John Wayne answered. And he knows what that answer cost. We talk a lot about honor. We attach it to uniforms, speeches, flags, and movie scenes. We applaud it when it looks good on camera. But real honor doesn't look like that. Real honor shows up quietly, at personal expense, with no audience, and no guarantee anyone will ever know. John Wayne didn't go to Tucson because it was noble. He went because a dying man asked him to. And that was enough. He lost millions. He lost momentum. He lost 18 months of work. But an 11-year-old boy never had to wonder if his father mattered. That's the trade. That's the real cost of doing the right thing. So here's the question this story leaves us with. What would you give up to keep a promise to a stranger? Not when it's easy. Not when it's public. But when it costs you something real. John Wayne answered that question at 3:47 a.m. on March 17, 1954. And 70 years later, we're still talking about it, not because he was a movie star, but because, when it mattered most, he chose to be a man. If this story moved you, share it. Leave a comment about a time you chose honor over convenience. Because stories like this don't just remind us who we admired, they remind us who we're supposed to be.